Hey guys, what's up and welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to be talking about a few separate stories that are actually connected in my opinion. And before we do that, quick administrative note, I actually made a second channel. That second channel is going to be fashion, wigs, makeup, because I know people are sick of seeing it here, so it's going to be moved over there. It's linked below. I have other details that I'm not going to keep talking about also down there, so look in the description if you want any information on that. So we're going to talk about influencers because of the state of YouTube, and this isn't exclusive to the beauty community, but I might use examples from the beauty community because that's one of the communities I'm most familiar with, and I think one of the most toxic ones.
You know what? No. Well,
I'm going to talk about a couple of different stories because they're going to help illustrate the point I'm trying to make here. First of all, just the other day, James Charles was hacked, apparently, allegedly, and apparently these hackers were saying that they would release his nudes, and to kind of fight back, he decided to release his one and only own nude to Twitter. So everyone on Twitter saw his ass, including me, didn't really want to see it, don't think his 12-year-old followers wanted to see it. He does have a younger fan base, so I don't really know what the point was. Can you keep that elsewhere? Grindr, Tinder, whatever the fuck you use. Nobody needed to see that. The reason I bring this up is because I've been thinking a lot as to why influencers want every type of attention, even if it's negative attention. And of course, because negative attention can still end up in some form of monetization. Now, I'm going to show you this formula I came up with because I keep seeing the same shit happening over and over again. And this is not about every content creator. This is not about every influencer. I'm really focusing on the ones who are almost always in a new scandal every week. So this is the formula I came up with. So first, there's an incendiary moment. Using Jaclyn Hill, if you don't know, she released a line of lipsticks. What ended up happening? These lipsticks had hair, metal, a bunch of shit in them that lipsticks should not have. This is the incendiary moment. This is where the scandal starts. This is where the uproar starts. Now, to be clear though, the incendiary moment isn't always actually a big deal. Here it's a big deal because yes, it was a health risk, but there are plenty of times where things happen in social media communities that get a huge uproar, but it's really not that big of a deal. The incendiary moment then leads to money. When there's an incendiary moment, people typically get followers, even if they did something shitty. They'll get views and potentially brand deals depending on what their engagement is like if we're talking about Instagram. So after the incendiary moment, people such as myself or drama channels or anyone who's interested in knowing what exactly is going on will maybe look at their older videos, and if those videos are monetized, those views will create money. They'll get extra followers, which like I said with engagement could end up to money, and they'll get brand deals, which obvious money. So from the incendiary moment, money is made almost immediately, in my opinion. After the incendiary moment, ideally, someone will address the problem. Of course, this is not Jaclyn Hill's case, but let's pretend someone does address the problem. After they address the problem, what ends up happening is that, again, there is direct money, because when someone says, "I'll never do this again, I was in a dark place, this is not like me, I've never been the type to say things like this," it's almost like a second incendiary moment, because once that happens, people such as myself or anyone investigating will go look through their old videos and be like, is this the first time they did something racist? Is this the first time they did something homophobic? And see if everything adds up. And that also makes money because we'll be looking at older videos. So if those are monetized, again, direct money. And then after the apology, there's a fresh start, a new page, a new chapter, a new and improved me, whatever, new year, new me bullshit that, you know, by February you've already given up. But anyway, there's a new start where they kind of promise that they're going to atone for their mistakes and moving on, they've learned whatever. Give it a week or a couple months, the influencers who are always in a scandal then again have an incendiary moment and this whole thing starts over again. So it really is a money-making formula because, first of all, almost every time towards the end, they get forgiven because people forget things, even if it's genuinely terrible. The thing that's the most demoralizing to me about it is that for some people, it becomes their brand. Take Tana Mojo, for example. That is her brand. Fucking up over and over and over again, but people think she's really relatable because we love icons that drive under the influence. We love people that promote plagiarism. But the thing is, all of these things are completely undermined because people continue to say, you know, she fucks up, that's her brand. And she follows this formula and it's forgiven over and over because people have decided that her brand is fucking up and being late because that's really quirky. However, there is also another type of formula, which is this same formula, except it's where people don't apologize or address their mistakes. That is where Jaclyn Hill comes in, where she sells the furry lipsticks, right? Then, instead of acting like an actual CEO of a brand and recalling and addressing it immediately, there was quite a bit of social media silence. And then instead of addressing it, she essentially went MIA and then comes back thinking, okay, now we're good. So this not addressing the problem actually is probably the worst thing you can do because, first of all, here there was a health risk, so it's really not the time to decide to shut up. You're gonna get people to keep talking about you in the worst possible way because, like I said, scandals can lead to money, but scandals can also lead to the demise of your credibility. And at this point, Jaclyn Hill, who trusts her really? Like, aside from people who are dead set on forgiving her immediately and not holding her accountable, who really is trusting her apart from people who are gullible or think that she's their friend and she's so relatable and fun? When really, she made a big mistake. And that's not to say I dislike Jaclyn Hill. I've never really followed her, never really cared. But in this situation, I think anyone could say, whether you're a fan or not, this was a massive fuck up from how the lipsticks were created, obviously, to the way in which the issue was managed. By not addressing the problem, she is, in a way, making herself more and more money because people are, again, going back to see what she's done in the past, going back to see if they can find her lipsticks, you know, to prove that she actually had them longer than their shelf times. They're going back in her social media to find things. And on YouTube, again, that makes money because her videos are surely monetized, aren't they? The fact is, I think that what's driving me crazy about influencers, I finally understood, is that I keep seeing this same formula repeat over and over and over again. And this is by no means a new formula. Politicians have been, you know, a different formula nonetheless, but politicians have had it. Every community has this formula. I just suppose that because it's almost like no matter whether you follow them or not, you're going to end up knowing something that you didn't even care to know about. And that's what makes the formula even more maddening because you can't avoid seeing the same shit unfold over and over and over again. The people at the top of the beauty community don't learn, typically. I mean, we keep seeing, for a reason, the same people fuck up. We've seen James Charles do it. We've seen Jaclyn Hill do it. We've seen so many people, and I'm mentioning these two because these are the most recent ones that really come to mind of like massive scandals. I wanted to read an article that relates to this idea of the formula. So a while back, you guys will remember, I mentioned this social media person named Tiffany Mitchell, who took pictures or got pictures taken of her motorcycle accident. Now, there's a lot of debate right now whether the motorcycle accident was real or staged. And to be honest, it doesn't really matter if it's real or staged for the purpose of what I'm talking about. If it's staged, that's morally bankrupt, obviously, but we don't know. And we will never know, and for what I'm saying, it doesn't matter. She put a story highlight, the ones that don't expire, I think, with her explanation as to what happened and why it's not faked. It's pretty long, so I'm not going to include it here, but essentially she just said that what happened is that they were shooting pictures and then they rode back on their motorcycles, which is why the photographer was there. There was an accident, she fell off her motorcycle, and after making sure that she was okay, the photographer decided to take pictures, and Tiffany was not mad about that, for reasons I don't understand. Tiffany tragically lost a partner via an accident similar to this one, so a lot of people were also up in arms about that because they were thinking like, how could you, post these pictures when a partner of yours was in a similar accident? Isn't that traumatic? Whatever. These were the pictures that were posted, and all of them are quite aesthetically pleasing in the sense that they do seem staged. Now, we don't know, but it's very hard for me to believe that at no point the photographer was like, oh, can you move more this way or that way? Because I don't think after an accident you're posing in perfect, no. But anyway, moving on. So after she posted these pictures, obviously BuzzFeed and a bunch of other, I don't want to call them news sources, but websites, let's just say, found the pictures, and here we have the incendiary moment. From there, it was posted on Twitter, which is how I found out about it. There were a bunch of retweets, there was a bunch of outrage, and as much as I don't like this, and I think it's quite morally bankrupt, whether you had an accident or not, it is her accident, so if she wants to do it, you know, whatever. The thing is, from this incendiary moment, now we have a different form of monetization because I do think her primary social media is Instagram. So if you get high engagement and if you have a high enough amount of followers, brand deals will offer themselves to you because they see that you have lots of likes and lots of comments rather than lots of likes and no comments, for example. So money potentially went in her direction even with this scandal because brands want to be talked about at the end of the day, right? So then there's the addressing part, and she did address it. Like I said, she put the story and then she actually archived the motorcycle post last I checked, and she addressed the fact that they're not faked. She would never do that. She thought that it was rare and beautiful that a moment like that would be recorded in some form, and so she decided to post them. That was her way to address it. It wasn't really an apology because she's claiming there's nothing to apologize for because they're real, and in the end of the day, it's her accident. Start doing what I call the archiving when they look into the past. So they'll bring up the fact that she had a partner that died because of an accident like that, and then they'll be like, this makes no sense in relation to that, which, to be fair, could seem a little bit inconsistent considering that probably was extremely traumatic. So then there's the fresh start where she archived the post, she put the story, and then that's essentially the closing of that incendiary chapter and moving on to a new one. And really, what's the bottom line of having this formula? I think that when we look at influencers or content creators in a more quantitative way rather than qualitative, like if we assign some kind of, I don't want to say numerical value, but if we assign a formula to what they do, it's a lot easier to break down and then rationalize whether we still support people, whether someone is consistently repeating the same things over and over, and a way to kind of separate ourselves from our emotions, because I'm sure there are plenty of times when even you, the viewer, has seen a scandal unfold and you just get really into your feelings about it because it touched, you know, a soft spot, or you think what happened is egregious, whatever the case may be. And if we step back and look at it in this way, I think it can be more productive in the sense that we step away from what we feel and we just look at the straight facts that are presented and then come to a conclusion based on that, which is probably what I'm going to try to do because sometimes these people just drive me fucking crazy. Anyways, guys, I know this was a bit of a different video, but it's been on my mind a lot, so I figured I'd just put it out there and try and just move on from that. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Let me know if you have found a certain formula that's also followed. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you to my patrons as always. Let's get right into the fan art.